focus on the arms in the downswing. So a big thing that we have to do is we have to be able to understand that in the downswing position, your trail arm needs to be straightening. Okay, straightening your trail arm is, just a key fundamental for two things. One, it helps you keep the golf club moving nicely on plane. Okay, so as you can see, if I let my arm sort of straighten here, so the club comes down nicely on plane, if I have a tendency to kind of, pull down and keep my arm bent, see how the weight gets much more sort of across the line and too steep. Okay, so that's going to be the big emphasis obviously in this video, and when you take this to the range to practice, that's how I want you to really focus. You need to make sure you understand what we're doing is we're going to focus on straightening this arm coming in towards the downswing, and it's going to help you hit the ball miles better. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take inspiration from Rory McIlroy. Now Rory McIlroy famously practices this drill, and what you do is you place your hands on the club like normal, but then separate your trail hand so that you hold down on the bottom part of the grip. So I've now got my lead hand at the top of the handle, my trail hand down at the bottom of the handle like so. Now what this will do is it will do a couple of things. One, as the session goes on, we will try and hit some shots, and if you're straightening the arm correctly, this will give you a real telling sign whether you are doing it right or wrong. But what I want you to do in the first part of the practice session is just don't worry about hitting any balls or anything like that. I just want you to, for a few moments, I want you to spend some time just becoming very aware of the feeling of your trail arm in the initiation to the downswing. So taking hold of the club like Rory McIlroy, swing up to the top of the backswing like so, and then what you can see here is I'm going to do kind of 2/3 things. The first one that I'm going to do is I'm going to move my upper arm to the side of my body. Okay, see what I'm doing here? As I am now going to simultaneously allow my arm to straighten. And what I mean by that is I'm just allowing my forearm to move away from my bicep as I move this. So that's what's happening here. And what you should be able to notice is how much that club head can get down towards the back of the golf ball with just that feeling of straightening that arm. Okay, like so. Now, like I said, 2/3 things. The third thing is, like I said at the beginning of this video, your trail arm is really key in terms of its responsibility for helping you keep the club on plane. So the third feeling you want to have, particularly as you're starting this drill in this downswing, is you want to make sure that your forearm is pointing up towards the sky. And then if you can blend those three movements together, you're going to have a perfect initiation for the downswing position. So I want you to spend the first few moments of that practice session, as long as you need to, until you start to feel like you understand what you're trying to achieve, doing that. Then what I want you to do is I want you to do some practice swings. But when you're doing the practice swings, you have to make sure you're focusing on getting that club head to strike where that golf ball would be. Okay, so I'm going to do it like so. You keep the split handle grip, and then I'm just going to do some swings where I swing back, I get the same feeling, upper arm to the side of my body, straighten that arm. But can you see the way I'm able to get the club to strike the ground? Okay, now politely, if you can't strike the ground, then don't bother trying to hit a ball, because obviously it's just not going to be worth it. What that means is that your arm is still too bent and you're not allowing that arm to release. So just work on straightening that arm and spend the necessary time that you need to until you can consistently strike the same sort of part each and every time. Okay, now if you can do that, then you can start to have a little bit of fun where you can just try and hit some shots where, again, you're allowing this arm to release. And the shots won't be amazing, but the reason I want you to try and hit some shots is because it will give you a really good indication. If you can get the club to the back of the golf ball, then that'll be giving you a really good indication that you are moving that trail arm in the correct sort of fashion. Okay, so that's what you would do, and then you can hit, up to 20 balls, just trying to have a little bit of fun, like I say, getting that sort of feeling of hitting some shots. Like I said, the results aren't going to be great, but as long as you're getting to the ball, that's great. Now, what I want you to do in the next part of this practice session is I want you to reduce the grip. Okay, so you're not going to go quite as wide, but I want you to keep it still separated. Okay, and as you're doing that, I want you to get that same sort of feeling of swinging back and just straightening that arm as you come in towards that sort of downswing position, as I'm demonstrating here. But again, you're really just trying to put a lot of your focus, even though you're trying to hit the ball and get it going towards your target, you're still trying to put most of your emphasis into this first part. Get this upper arm to the side of your body as you're straightening it down, and you should start to produce some decent success. And if you've gone through this practice session and you've been able to get the feeling, and then you've been able to translate that to hitting some shots, and then you've been able to narrow that grip and you're equally still hitting some shots and it feels a little bit more natural, a little bit more liberated. And then the final part to this sort of session in terms of how you can practice finishing off your shots is to return back to a normal grip. And what you want to do is you then really want to feel like you're whipping the club. So it's almost like you're going to forget the feeling that you're throwing the club head down to the bottom of the ball. See what I'm doing here? And then what you should notice is if you do this correctly and you really sort of throw the club down to the side of you, you should feel like your arms stay pretty straight in the through swing. But again, I want you to put most of the emphasis in this practice routine on this first part of getting these arms down. And then that might look something a bit more like so, okay? And that's how we need to practice. Get those arms coming down, drop them down like so. Get that sort of release. And all you're trying to do with this is you're just trying to teach yourself that you can get to the back of the golf ball really by just mainly focusing on straightening that arm. It's a fantastic routine to follow. It'll improve the quality of your ball striking no end. Welcome in.